Chris, good morning. Thanks so much for taking time out of your day and talking to me.
No sweat, man. I love getting up at 5:30 West Coast time. I'm great.
Believe me, you're never going to find anybody who sympathizes more with the getting up early thing than people in morning radio. So you're preaching to the choir.
All the time too, man. Don't you just always feel like a vampire with a paper route, just angry and folded paper stuff?
Usually, the way I've described it, usually around 12 o'clock, it feels like somebody hit me in the back of the neck with an aluminum bat, and then all of a sudden I'm realizing it. Like noontime, I'm eating lunch, and all of a sudden I'm like, what happened to me this morning?
Yeah, I always do it like either I have mercury running through my body or someone has scooped out my insides with an ice cream scoop. That's how it feels to me.
Such vivid descriptions, and that's what you're known for, turning your life into comedy, which, let me tell you, I'm such a huge fan, and what I love about what you do is you're able to take things that are objectively tragic and awful and turn them into something completely hilarious.
Yeah, you know the weird thing about that is like it pisses people off sometimes. It doesn't even. Sometimes I'll do a bit about, like, there's a bit in a new show called Arm the Children, which I wrote this really cheesy anti-gun bit first, and I wrote it, and I looked at it and went, I suck. Dude, you're a horrible comedian. And I thought, what would George Carlin do? And so I went all the way, instead of writing an anti-gun bit, I went all the way around the backside, and I wrote this bit called Arm the Children, where I prove we can fix every problem in America by simply arming the children. And the weird thing is that some people, it goes either way. It goes, the people that I feel like the best comedy you write can be right on the ragged edge, man. You have to write it on where people that are watching it, they're laughing, but they're not quite sure what side you're on.
Right.
That's when I find it the best.
Well, because then you're not preaching.
Mad at this bit. You what?
Then you're not preaching. Then, if they're not quite sure how to peg you into a box, they can't say that you're preaching one side or the other to them.
Yeah, that's the worst. When somebody's got you get on a soapbox. Every once in a while, I find myself on stage at a club doing it, and then I'll stop myself and make fun of myself for 5 minutes for being such a douchebag.
It's self-awareness that a lot of people who are performing don't have.
Yeah. I know how unimportant I really am. I don't think I'm a Kardashian, and I should make policy.
The special is debuting on Comedy Central on May 9th. That's Saturday at midnight. It's called Christopher Titus, The Angry Pursuit of Happiness. We kind of got into it a moment ago. Do you ever worry about sometimes being too dark for people at times?
It's weird, man. We have this weird... What is too dark? Although they asked me to pull, there was a bit I did about Philip Seymour Hoffman in this special, and Comedy Central asked me to pull it. They said, "Would you mind taking that out?"
Wow.
And I sense it's because it's New York, somebody knows him and whatever. But it's not dark. I don't go after him. I'm not mean about it. I don't know, man. Look, I don't talk about my penis for 5 minutes, 10 minutes. So that, I mean, what's dark? What's acceptable? What isn't acceptable? But I've said some things that not dirty, but bump up against the edge. You don't even have to. Isn't it my gig, man?
That's your job.
Hey, look, you're a radio guy. Don't you every once in a while have to have a competition where people put their hand on the car and drink water till their cells explode? Don't you have to do something like that?
I don't do the gag stuff, but I certainly troll everyone I've ever known in my life. Like, pretty much my conversations I have with people almost exclusively end in, okay, I'm going to argue with you, but I'm not sure if you're just saying this to get me angry or if you actually feel this way.
Good. So you always push the envelope.
Yeah.
But, there's no point in not. It's a short life, man. Look, we're all going to die, and no one's going to remember us, so why not have fun while you're here?
Yeah, and why bother doing what you do and getting up there and having the opportunity to speak to an audience if you're just going to say what people want to hear or give them something that isn't yourself? Yeah. We did something. Zach Worthing, I played my brother on Titus. We did an episode called Tommy's Not Gay when I had my TV show, and I didn't even think about this because but the whole point was Tommy's dad ended up being gay. Tommy's dad got gay bashed in a bar, and I had to kind of face the fact that I was homophobic. And we get done with the bit, and Zach turned to me and he goes, dude, he goes, if you did this on Will and Grace or something, it's preaching to the choir. But you do, we have like NASCAR dads watching us. And I was like, I didn't even think about it. I was like, oh wow, that's right. He goes, it's good. It's much ballsier to do something that you know is going to rattle cages than it is to walk up and preach to the choir. Like, and you get there, go, Osama bin Laden sucks. Yeah, I hate ISIS. It's sometimes it's obvious. It's better to
surprise him.
Right.
I want him to go when I want him to say, if I start a bit, I want him to go, where the hell's he going with this?
Yeah, no, and I like that.
That's what I want their first reaction to be.
That's what's good about what you do and what good comics do, is that you can't see it coming from a mile away. And you speak about, you just mentioned your show, and you talked about kind of the honesty of it, or going in a direction people don't expect. Is the rumor that you were fired from the show because you refused to fake a part of your life true?
Yes.
That is true.
Well, I don't know if I got fired because well, it's exactly why. I think it was because of the way I did it. We were in a meeting. Again, we had 4 presidents in 3 years, by the way, so It wasn't a real steady hand on the tiller at the time.
Yeah.
And I came into a meeting with everybody. Here's my mistake. If it was one-on-one, I could have said it. It was 30 people in the room, and the network president goes, I want you to split up, the characters, Titus and Aaron, and I want to have them cheat on each other. And that never happened. I've never cheated on anyone in my life. And I went, she goes, I want you to have a love triangle. And I looked at the network president, the person who runs Fox, in a room full of 30 of her minions, and I said, do you even watch the show? Let me explain to you how this works. And turns out if you tell your boss they're stupid long enough, they'll fire you.
Yeah, usually that doesn't ensure long-term career moves right there.
Yeah, the promotion didn't happen that I thought.
Oh, you thought you would become the vice president of Fox after that, in charge of programming.
Hey, Titus got in my face. I like that. I like his gumption. Let's move him up the ladder.
Yeah, that's really funny. If you haven't been, if you're unfamiliar with Christopher Titus's comedy, it comes from a fascinating life, one that has so many twists and turns that you could not even possibly write anything this crazy. Do you think a lot of people come from a background of, kind of chaos and tragedy and just what you kind of come from? Do you think people really latch on? Because the people who are fans of yours are diehards.
Yeah, it doesn't just have twists and turns. It has homicides in it, man.
It literally does, yeah.
I'm not kidding. Yeah, it's weird. I have these fans that are. The craziest thing was when I did Love Is Evil, which is about my divorce. And the reason I wrote Love Is Evil is so I could get through it, not stuck in the end of a gun. So I wrote it, and I was just angry about my ex and what she'd done. But the point of the show was to make it so everybody, love is possible. You just got to get rid of your first wife. That's all I'm saying. And so I wrote that. I did it. We filmed it. I was up 2 months later. I was up at the club working on the new material, and this guy comes up and hands me a letter, and he's flipping out, and he's like, thank you. And I'm like, okay. And I go, do you want me to read the letter now? And he goes, no. And I go, great, anthrax. So I started looking at the letter after he left, and it said, on Valentine's Day, the special aired. He goes, I was going to propose to my girlfriend on that day, but 3 months earlier she'd left me. I'd lost my job. I'd lost my house, and I moved back to my parents' house. So I decided on Valentine's Day to kill myself. And I'm reading this letter going, and like hair standing on my arms. I'm like, oh, God. And he goes, I was sitting in my parents' basement. I had a bottle of wild turkey in front of me and a handgun. And he goes, I sat on the remote control when I sat down on the couch. It turned on Comedy Central. I've been watching it the night before your special started. It says, I started drinking, I started laughing, I started crying, I started laughing again. And I realized if you could get through that relationship, I don't have to kill myself. And I keep that in my nightstand just whenever I get cocky. I read it again. My biggest fear was after I got that letter, I thought, oh, God, I hope this new special's good. I don't want people killing them.
Right. Now you've got all the burden of expectation on your shoulders. There's literally lives in limbo over you, Chris.
Letters.
Well, the special is called The Angry Pursuit of Happiness. It might literally save your life. Keep doing what you're doing, Chris. You're excellent. And what you said earlier, I think, is probably the best advice you can give to anyone, which is, what would George Carlin do?
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, that's my bracelet. I have that bracelet, actually.
All right. Well, you can check out Christopher Titus's website as well. What's your website? Because I know you do a lot of independently, released things, and you're trying to connect with the audience that way.
Go to ChristopherTitus.com and follow me on Twitter on @TitusNation, man. I'm always cracking out jokes there, too.
All right, Chris. Thanks so much for your time. I appreciate it.
Thanks, man. Bye.